Hi everybody, thank you for tuning into my vlog where I'm going to be going through a few creative ideas using our Sizzix Shrink Plastic. So I hope you enjoy. So here we are with the Shrink Plastic in its lovely packaging here. I've already taken a sheet out over here. So this is what it looks like. Now we have a matte side on this side, and that's for adding your detail to. You can stamp on this matte side here as well, but over here it's all nice and shiny. So once it's been shrunk, this side gives any colour that's on that's been drawn onto here a nice kind of deep dark tone, so it's a lot more colourful on this side, which is great. Now I've cut some smaller pieces. I'm going to be using a few different tools today. So we have this nice little rubber stamper and holder tool. This tool is 2-in-1. So this is for once you've used the heat tool to then go ahead and flatten your element out while you wait for it to dry. And it's not going to give any kind of indents in there unless you have maybe, you know, some bit of debris on there or something. It's going to make it really nice and smooth. I have a few of these finger protectors here. Now you don't need these things to use the shrink plastic, they just help massively. Now this one it goes on the end of your finger here, and it's got a point to it on the end, so it's going to protect your finger from the heat, but it's also going to hold the little elements in place while we use the heat tool. I've got my heat tool. This is it's not the cleanest of heat tools because it is well loved. I use it every day, so that's why it's a bit manky. I'm going to be using some of our alcohol pens because these are a perfect tool to be using with the shrink plastic. It allows you to colour them in. You'll see when I use it that when things shrink down, you expect, so say if I stamped onto my shrink plastic, as you can, I expect it to shrink down and all the letters to be, you know, too big, blurred together sort of thing. That doesn't happen. When you stamp an element on here, the whole thing shrinks and all the details shrink down with the shrink plastic. So it's just a tiny, tiny clear version of what you stamped on there, which is absolutely great. Now, as I said earlier, I've got a few bits of shrink plastic that I've cut down here. Now, I've got some of my elements already cut out, but I just wanted to show you how easily you can cut. So I'll just bring on my big shot machine. I'm going to be using some of the heart elements from the Love Hearts die set, and I'm also going to be using this moon element there. It's also from chapter 1. So that's an absolutely lovely die, that one. It's a floral crescent moon, and it's when put together with the flower elements, it looks lovely. But for today, I'm just using that moon element, and I'm not going to be shrinking that down. So here is how we're going to layer it up. Now I'm going to put it so that the smooth side rather than the matte side is facing up here, because that's going to be the side I want you to see. That's going to show all the detail when I shrink this down. I'll just layer that up again. And I've got, in fact, I'm going to cut the medium sized heart because I've got the other two already pre-cut. So I'll just sandwich it up. As normal, we can cut this with thinlet dies. And I'll bring it back through. It will cut one time, but just for the sake of me having to reach over and grab. And there we are. So we've got that element, and we've got it on the nice shiny side there, so it's been cut properly. And on this side, this is where I'm going to add some colour. So I will just move this out of the way, like so. Okay, so I've got a bit of scrap paper. I'm just going to put this on here because I'm going to be colouring over it. I'm going to go with this nice lavender dust colour. And I'm just going to add just in nice lines. You can colour it however you want. If you do get kind of, you know, keep going over the same part and it looks as though it's been coloured in with a felt tip, that will shrink down and be even more kind of prominent when it's been shrunk down, but that's not a problem. It's a nice effect. There we are. So I've added my alcohol ink there, and that has been added to the matte side rather than the shiny side, because the shiny side will just wipe off there. So I'll give that a sec to dry. And what I'm going to do, I've also got a bit of our black stamping ink here, and I'm just realising now that I don't have my stamping block to hand, so I am going to just use the top of the case in there, and I'm going to stick my little heart element there. I'll apply some of my stamping ink from the top, as we always do when we're stamping. You apply from the top, and then I'm just going to measure that up, and I'll stamp that on there. There we go. So it's all lovely and stamped up. Do I have my tweezers to hand? Not at the moment. But if I just pick that up there, we can just see the detail of the stamp there. Now, as I said earlier, this is going to shrink down. It's not going to, you know, become all too thick for the make once we shrink it down. And I'm going to show you that right now. So, do you know what I'm forgetting? Now we've got this mesh net that we put on the top while I use the heat tool on this. This is going to stop it from curling up too much, stop it from moving around, but when it's a nice bold shape like this, it's not going to curl up too much. When it curls up, sometimes you think that you've lost it because it's all going to curl over onto itself and stick. It doesn't, so just persevere, keep doing it, and you'll see that it straightens itself out as you get an even heat over it with the heat tool. So I'm going to turn my heat tool on. I have it on the lower setting at the moment. You can use the higher one, but I prefer the lower setting for this. You need to just wait a little bit for it to heat up, and then we can start to heat. Now you can see why I'm using that. I'll just put on my little finger protector there, and then we've got something that we can hold it down with while we heat that. So I could probably take away my mesh now. That's just for in case it's blowing around too much. Now I can see it starting to move now. Okay, we can see it starting to curl around. Now if it's blowing around too much, I can take the heat gun higher up. And that'll stop that from happening. So it looks as though we're going to lose it, then all of a sudden it's going to open back out, and there we are. I'm not sure if you can see that perfectly. When I stamp this now, so I've just stamped it down with the flat end of this tool. This tool is absolutely brilliant for heat tooling. We don't need to leave it there for too long. And then just look at this. So if I just put it on the top of this piece of white card, just to show you the detail in that. And we can see the stamped element there has shrank down with the shrink plastic. So it's just a really small, fine detail. Now I would if I was making this again, what I'd do is I would use my hole punch while it was still this size. I would give it a little punch, and then that hole is going to allow me to put a chain through it or a bracelet, something like that. And I'll show you one that I've made earlier, but first, before I do that, I want to show you that. So I'll shrink this one down now. I'm going to do it a bit quicker with the higher heat now, because I want to show you what happens when we use some embossing powder. So there we are, it's starting to shrink down. That was much quicker that time because I got it on the higher heat. And that's it. And just apply that stamping tool. And it cools down so quickly as well. It's ready to use straight away. Now, I'm going to use some of our embossing ink here, and I've got my little funnel. Now this is a great technique when you're doing jewellery making and things like this. Now I'm going to choose the side. It's already been shrunk down, so it's not going to shrink down too much more. It will become soft again. But that's fine, as long as we don't touch it too much, it'll be fine. Now I'm going to give this a covering with the Mango Tango embossing powder. And this is going to happen a few times. So, can I find my tweezers? And the answer to that is no. But I have got a pair of tweezers on hand. They're not as good as my Sizzix ones, but they'll have to do for now. So I'm just going to put that there. Now, here's where the lower setting is going to come in really handy, because I don't want this to blow around. I'm just going to gently set that embossing powder. Now I'll leave that just for a few seconds, just to sort of firm itself up again, and then I can pick it up. Now if I just hold this up, you'll see that embossing powder, can I catch the light with it a bit? There we are. So that embossing powder is giving it a really nice coat there. But what I'm going to do, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to apply the embossing powder again to the same surface. And we're just going to repeat that because a few layers of the embossing powder creates almost like a veneer over the top. And it's a really lovely effect. So I'll take that back out. All drops through the hole there, which is what we want. And again, I will just set that. I wish you could see a close-up of it as the embossing powder sets, because it's the most satisfying thing ever. You just see this veneer appear and it goes all smooth and lovely, and it is perfect for jewellery making. Now there we are. Now that in itself already, I'm going to bring that up to the camera once it's firmed. I'll use my funnel in the meantime just to put the excess back in here. These funnels are brilliant. You take the lid off. We're not going to waste any of this embossing powder. I'm just going to put it all back in there. So I can put my lid on this one. Now that was 2 coats there, and this, just look at that surface. Now this is especially lovely for jewellery makes here. I'll catch the light with that there. Not very well, but there we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply another little bit, but I'm going to go with a different colour now. I'm going to go with the mint julep. So I will just add again my embossing ink. Stick that down there. Now with the mint julep, I'm just going to come in from the side because I don't want to add much of this at all. I'm only going to just create just a little hint of another colour. I'll take this out. And again, we come in with the heat tool. And the closer you are with the heat tool, the more quickly it's going to set. But you can move the heat tool a bit further away and get a bit more of an even setting. Now, this is fantastic. Okay, so have a look at this. We can see how lovely and shiny that is. It's a really lovely little thing just to put on. I hope we're picking that up and not getting too much light there. I'll try and block out a bit of the light. Just let it focus. But that is a really lovely thing there, and it glistens. So all I would do is I would attach a little chain to that. And here's one that I created earlier, and I used for this one, I think I used the ballet slipper and a bit of the mint julep, and we just made, I put a little silver chain on it, and look at that. And with the shrink plastic being such a nice robust material, it was great. But if I stick this one on here, you could see that it could have just been using that. So this one's see-through, and we've got that stamped element there. Here I have stamped a sentiment on there. It says special someone, and that's a stamp element from the Love Hearts die set. So that was absolutely great. So the shrink plastic can maintain its transparency, but just adding this embossing powder, I just wanted you to see that that is an option because it looks absolutely lovely. Now, I have pre-made some of these. I'll take that one in there. I've got these little hearts that I've done them all in solid colours. Now I've got this card element. All I've done is I'm going to move this stuff out of the way because I wanted to show that it can also be used for paper crafts. So shrink plastic isn't just about jewellery making. We can also use it to create some lovely paper craft makes here. So this is the moon element, or one of the moon elements from the from this crescent moon die here. Now this moon, it actually cuts out the frame of the moon. The inner piece there is just a bonus that you get, and I've used it on this card because we've gone with a theme of you know, togetherness, and we're all missing our families a bit at the moment. So I've printed the sentiment, no matter how far apart, we share the same moon every night. So what a lovely sentiment, just to think you're both looking at the same moon in the night sky, which is just a really nice thing when you're missing your family and friends. Oh, I went a bit overboard with the glue there. That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to stick that down around this sentiment. And I prepped these earlier. Now I've put this little sentiment a bit far to the right because I'm going to add. Now look at the dimension that is created when you add these shrink plastic elements. You've already got it, they come built in with dimension. So I'm going to stick that one here. And when you guys make it at home, you can be more careful so you don't get any glue splodges on there. I have another one here. I'm going to add that one in there, I think. And then I'm going to add another one up here. And the colours that are created with the embossing powder are absolutely lovely. So just find some little spaces here. Be careful with your composition when you're doing a make like this. I'll stick that one just up here. Just coming off the moon there. And it's that simple. So just look how much dimension this gives you, and the light plays over these maids. Because we've used the shrink plastic, it was robust enough to just add the embossing powder, and we've got that lovely glossy touch. So just look at that for a nice, simple, effective and elegant make for a card that you could send to a loved one. So we've got this card here, the paper craft make there, and of course we can make the jewellery with it. So there's a little bit of jewellery. I'll show you again just a few of these other little embellishments I could have put on the card just over this white background so that you can see the stamped elements, and then these are transparent as well. So I've got this one with a sentiment there as well. Absolutely lovely. So I've got those elements, and then of course you can make this really professional looking jewellery, and that's all using the shrink plastic. So thank you very much for watching. So thank you again for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you've managed to gain some inspiration for future makes using our shrink plastic. Head over to the Sizzix website and the Sizzix Facebook page for more inspiration, and I will see you next time.